fans, for the first time in over 25 years, it's time to introduce your Knoxville Smokies.
Go Smokies!
All right, Smokies fans, welcome back to another live pilot pregame show alongside Jimbo, James, Cole, Schmelzer. I'm Connor Nelson, and we're back on the Smokies Baseball Network. We thank you all for tuning in if you're listening on 92.5 or 1180 WKCE or on the Smokies YouTube channel. Here to bring you the preview of Lookouts in Smokies, game number 1 here on July 29th in Chattanooga. This is the final matchup between these two teams this season, unless the Smokies can push themselves up into the top spot in the Southern League North and join Chattanooga in the playoffs, because that'll be the first round, as Chattanooga already locked up their playoff spot. And fans, got to let you know, this live pregame show is brought to you by Pilot. Pilot is committing to connecting people and places with comfort, care, and a smile at every stop. So check out one of our conveniently located stations. Try their delicious burritos, jumbo wings, tenders, pizza, hot home-style meals, and more. Pilot, see you out here. And Jimbo, pleasure to be along here with you on this Pilot pregame show, and wanted to start it off with a little bit of news. As a lot of Cubs fans know, our big brothers over there in Chicago, there was some unfortunate news that dropped on Monday, and that was that Ryne Sandberg, Hall of Fame second baseman, passed away at the age of 65 just on Monday, and he was surrounded by his family, accordingly passing away at home. And he announced back in January of 2024 that he had been diagnosed with cancer, had his ups and downs in his battle, and unfortunately lost the battle on Monday. So big loss in the Chicago community. This guy was a legend, MVP, 10-time All-Star, and really cemented himself in the legacy of Chicago baseball. Jimbo, what was your reaction when you saw this news?
Yeah, the first person I texted was actually Nick, our main play-by-play announcer. Obviously, it was just, I know he got to work alongside him for a bunch of years, but yeah, Ryne Sandberg is a great dude, especially for the Cubs community. It's just a sad one to lose, especially to cancer. I mean, it's just a terrible feat. So,
yeah, wishing his family the best, hoping everyone around him is doing well, and we will be keeping him in our prayers. And I'm sure Chicago will keep him warm. The Cubs will be wearing a special patch going forward to honor him throughout. I know they're wearing it today. Not sure how long they'll be keeping it on, but I wouldn't doubt if they're repping it for the rest of the season. So sad news, but with the rest of the pregame show, let's go ahead and get into tonight's action, Jimbo. And let's go ahead and give the listeners a little bit of a series preview. And we've got a good one. Like I said, this is the last matchup between these two teams unless they meet each other in the playoffs. So, Jimbo, what's kind of the report on the Smokies coming into this series?
yeah, so the Knoxville Smokies, they were unfortunate last week. They dropped 4 of their 6 games against the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. They were able to win the final 2 on Saturday and Sunday. Overall, their numbers look pretty underwhelming after that series, just hitting .208 during it. However, they still managed to drive in 20 runs over the course of the week. They were also able to continue getting on base at a high rate. They were ranking 4th in the league with a .324 OPB, helped out by their league-leading 34 walks over the last week. Unfortunately, their strikeout numbers are also some of the highest in the league during that stretch. They come into a series. They are actually 9-9 against the Chattanooga Lookouts, so hopefully they can get the bats hot and get a couple wins.
Yeah, they're coming off of that thrilling series finale win. It was a 6-5 walk-off over the Wahoos at home on Sunday. They jumped out to a big league early, and kind of the story for the Smokies in this post-All-Star break season is that they've been giving up the lead in the middle innings, and that happened again on Sunday. But in the bottom of the 9th, Wahoo's bullpen got a little bit shaky as they were kind of running low going into that game already. And they had second and third thanks to B.J. Murray Jr. being incredibly aggressive on the bases, and it ended up paying off because there was a wild pitch and he was able to come home to score standing, walked off the game. So hopefully the Smokies can ride that high into this series in Chattanooga, because this is a big one. You want to prove yourself in this series. This is a team that already earned a playoff spot, but this team is going to be looking a lot different, whereas the Smokies, this is a lot of the same guys who went ahead and played Chattanooga multiple times already this season. So Chattanooga, this is one of the hottest offenses over the last week. Against Columbus, they slashed 270, 357, and 439 as a team. They had 33 runs in those 6 games. That was second in the league, just behind Pensacola, who was playing us. So that's what you need to know about the offense. The pitching, honestly, not much better than Knoxville's last week. So hopefully the Smokies' bats can sort of heat up in this series, start to score more runs throughout the whole ball game, put up crooked numbers when they can, take advantage of errors, and then sprinkle the runs throughout the games to really help this pitching out, because they're going to need it. We've got one to-be-determined start day right now in the rotation, so we don't know if that's going to be a bullpen game. This pitching staff is going to need some help from the offense this week.
Also, Jackson Wiggins, for fans out there, Jackson Wiggins pitched 2 innings, I believe it was Saturday, against Birmingham, and he didn't start at all against the Pensacola Blue Wahoos, so very interesting. Maybe he could slot in. Obviously, a lot of trade deadline news talking. Maybe the Cubs are saving him for a potential deal, but it is definitely an interesting storyline for the Smokies that Jackson Wiggins has not really been pitching.
Yeah, and before we get into the rest of the standing starting pitchers and lineups, Jimbo, I think that's something we got to talk about before we lay this series out, because for a lot of these Smokies players, we don't know if it's going to be the last game or last at-bat or last time on the mound with the Chicago Cubs organization for a lot of these guys, because it's the trade deadline season. Chicago looking like a World Series contender this season. So I know you have a report on the latest trade buzz, so why don't you go ahead and start with that?
Yeah, so the report that I just got that just came out of here is the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be acquiring right-handed pitcher Sir Anthony Dominguez from the Baltimore Orioles. In exchange, the Baltimore Orioles are going to be acquiring Jerron Watts-Brown, a right-handed pitcher. And here's the interesting part. The Baltimore Orioles are playing the Toronto Blue Jays right now in a doubleheader today. So he's going to be moving clubhouses, which I find very interesting. On top of that, which is something I've never seen before, is that Jerron Watts-Brown is on the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, the AA for Toronto's affiliate, and they are currently in Bowie taking on the Chesapeake Bay Sox. So he is also potentially going to be moving clubhouses as well. So it's just very interesting. But on top of that, just a couple other news stories. We got the Rays. They're going to acquire Nick Fortes from the Miami Marlins for Matthew Etzel. And it's very interesting as well for Matthew Etzel, because last year he was traded from the Orioles in the deal to Tampa Bay for Zach Eflin. On top of that, we're going to have also Danny Jansen going to the Milwaukee Brewers from the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for infielder Yahir Arenamo. And finally, the other news I got here is the Detroit Tigers will be acquiring Chris Paddock here from the Minnesota Twins in exchange for first baseman Enrique Jimenez. So a lot of stuff just slowly ringing in. Obviously, the trade deadline is Thursday, July 31st at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, we're coming up on it. Just a couple more days. And I really think the Diamondbacks are the last domino that needs to fall before we see all of the moves kind of happen and finally solidify. Because, yeah, all these moves you mentioned, they're good pieces, a bunch of playoff teams trying to bolster themselves up for the playoffs. But none of those names were really big impact players. I mean, you see the Brewers bolstering up behind the dish. They're going to want Wilson Contreras to be in the lineup as much as possible when they get down the line, or William Contreras, always mixing the brothers up, those guys. But, that's kind of where it lies. And where are the Cubs going to make their move? You never know. But it seems like the Diamondbacks are the best fit right now. The Pirates are another team that they're talking about. But those in-division trades can always get sticky. So we'll kind of see where it lands. But let's go ahead and jump it back to the affiliate ball, back to the Southern League. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the standings. So right now, brief overview of the Southern League South, since we're not featuring any teams in that. Pensacola just came off a good series against us, won 4 of 6. They're right now 16-10 at the top of the Southern League South. Biloxi's right behind them, already a playoff spot locked in. They're actually one game below 500, though, 13-14. Columbus right behind them, 12-15. And then the Biscuits of Montgomery, 11-16 at the bottom of the Southern League South. Jimbo, how is the Southern League North looking for Knoxville?
Yeah, so currently the Smokies are 7 games back of first to the Birmingham Barons. The Barons just seeming to pull out here. They really have jumped ahead here. 19-8 here in the second half of the season. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. They're at Rocket City this week. Chattanooga obviously taking on the Smokies tonight. And on top of that, you got the Rocket City Trash Pandas. They're sitting at 10-17 on the season, and they are in dead last, currently 9 games back of Birmingham. Chattanooga sitting at second, just 4.5 out. But for Chattanooga, they clinched the first half. So for them, it really doesn't matter. They're just playing ball and having a good time.
That's right. So right now, trying to gain some ground. You've got Birmingham playing Rocket City. So if you're Knoxville, got to do all you can in this series right here to go ahead and jump a spot, get within reach of Birmingham, because time is running out here in the second half. Plenty of games, but if you keep slipping right here, 7 games is hard to come by already. So got to make sure at the end of this series, we're within 6 to 4 games right now. I'd say that's hopefully within striking distance. If you keep doing that, hopefully Birmingham has some losing series in there and you're able to make up ground by the end of it. Because right now it seems like everybody's almost playing below 500 ball right now in the Southern League. So let's go ahead and get into the starting pitchers for tonight's matchup. We've got Sam Armstrong on the mound, set to make 2 starts in this series, 2-7 with a 4.62 ERA, going up against Jared Lyons, 3-3 with a 2.90 ERA. So James, what's the report on Armstrong?
Yeah, so Sam Armstrong, the 24-year-old from Newton, New Jersey, is currently sitting at 2-7 with a 4.62 ERA. In his last start back on June 7th against Chattanooga, pitched 5 1/3 inning, gave up 3 earned runs on 1 home run with 4 strikeouts. So hopefully trying to continue that dominance against the Chattanooga Lookouts today, going multiple innings here today.
Yeah, he's been a big guy just in this second half of the season. Very consistent for the Smokies so far. It's been one of his best months of the season, coming off of a year in 2024 where he was lights out over the entire season. Model of consistency was Armstrong, and that's his game plan, just trying to stay in the zone. He's got a 6-pitch mix, looking for him to utilize all of those pitches here in this start. And his counterpart's going to be Jared Lyons, the 6'1", 206-pound right-handed pitcher, 24 years old. This was a 14th round pick out of George Mason back in 2022. And you heard the line, 3-3, 2.90 ERA, sub-3. That means he's having a good season. His last start against Knoxville, though, there's a funny story. So he's pitched against Knoxville 3 times this season. The first time, possibly his best start of the year. He went 5+ innings, allowed just 1 run, struck out plenty of Smokies. The second start, arguably his worst of his season. He only got bounced in the 4th inning, allowed a lot of runs, walked a lot of batters. So before the 3rd time he started against Knoxville, it was here in Covenant Health Park, and I did a pregame stand-up. I was telling the fans, here's the pitching matchup, and I said, yeah, Jared Lyons, last time he faced this team, we bounced him out early, looking to do it again. So he pitches just 2 innings. It was kind of a shorter start for him because he was coming off of some elbow soreness. That's what we heard, a little rumor there. It was 2 innings of really good baseball, dominated with 4 strikeouts, just 1 base runner on a hit. And then the coaches told me the next day after I was dropping off some box scores and some stat packs that he heard me. He was in the bullpen. He heard it on the scoreboard speakers that I was saying that this team wanted to bounce him out early, and apparently he took it personally and went ahead and shoved it for 2 innings. So I'm not there to talk any crap. I don't know if he's going to be tuning in on the Smokies YouTube channel. We'll see if he's tuning into radio. We'll never know. But Jared, if you are listening, I am envious of your mustache, though. But and again, I hope you get bounced early. So, Jimbo, now that we're wrapped up with the starting pitchers, let's go ahead and get into the starting lineups. How is Lance Reimel aligning the Smokies here tonight?
Yeah, so for the Knoxville Smokies, they are going to be lining up as we speak with this. Number 19, Brett Bateman leading off in center field. Batting second, we're going to have Pedro Ramirez at third base. Batting third, Jefferson Rojas at shortstop. Batting fourth in the cleanup position, B.J. Murray Jr. playing first base. Batting fifth, Corey Joyce, the designated hitter tonight. Batting sixth, Ravash Garcia, the second baseman. 7, 8, 9 looks like this. Andy Garriola at right field, Parker Chavers in left field, and Casey Opitz will be doing the catching tonight, all behind right-handed pitcher Sam Armstrong.
Yeah, big thing to note here, Jimbo, is that this is the first time we're seeing Brett Bateman, Pedro Ramirez, Jefferson Rojas, BJ Murray Jr., and Corey Joyce all in the same lineup. Have not seen this yet before, so Lance Rimal hasn't had the luxury of going to 5 of his most touted prospects / best players this season all at the same time. So this is going to be really fun to watch. I'm hoping this is due for a lot of hits right here in this lineup. So the starting 9 they're going to be going up against kind of looks like this. Chattanooga Lookouts coming in 14-12 record, let me remind you. And their leadoff guy has been one of the best all season long. Top 30 prospect, Edwin Arroyo, the switch-hitting shortstop, starts it off for the Lookouts. Leo Balcazar, sounds right out of the regular show. He's going to bat second. Jack Rogers, third in the lineup, left-handed batter. Cam Collier, another top prospect, will do the cleaning up. Jay Allen, the second, will bat fifth. Ethan O'Donnell in the sixth spot. And then 7-8-9 is going to look like Ruben Ibarra, Connor Burns, and Dominic Patelli for the Lookouts behind Jared Lyons tonight. And then fans, can't forget to remind you that this season, Pioneer Comfort and your Knoxville Smokies are hitting home runs for heroes. What that means is for every home run hit by a Smokies player this season, Pioneer Comfort will be donating $100 to the Wounded Warrior Project. To date, the Smokies and Pioneer Comfort have raised $4,800 for the Wounded Warrior Project. So let's go ahead and get into our final segment here in our Pilot pregame show, our players to watch. These are guys we're keeping our eye on to help the Smokies impact and get in the win column here tonight. So, Cole, who's the guy you're keeping your eye on in this series opener?
Yeah, so when I was doing our game notes today, the one guy I was noticing that was clear as day on my radar is Raybosh Garcia. Raybosh Garcia is sitting second on the team in batting average over the last 10 games, batting .297. The only guy that's in front of him is going to be Felix Stevens. He currently sits at the 6th hole tonight in the lineup. And this season, batting .333 against the Lookouts, going 1 for 3 in his last game back on June 7th.
I like it. I like that call. He's right in the middle of the action, too, behind those 5 guys that I mentioned. Hopefully he can have an impact. He's been swinging a hot stick. The guy I'm looking at is a guy that we haven't seen in a while. Brett Bateman has had a couple of stints on the IL over the past month, honestly. And he's been really good against Chattanooga in his career. And then this season, he's batting .273 against Chattanooga. Inserted right back into the leadoff spot, as he always is for Lance Rimal when he's in the game, playing center field. So I'm excited for Brett Bateman to make the comeback, see what he's able to do in his debut. The last time he came off the IL, he had multiple hits in the game and was on base a whole lot that night. Expecting the same from Brett Bateman here in this one. So that sets it up for our series opener. The last time the Lookouts and Smokies will match up here in this season, right here in this series. So, Jimbo, any last words for our listeners?
It's just going to be a great series. I actually get to make a trip down to Chattanooga for the first time this year, so it's going to be a fun time. All
right. Well, we can't wait to see you there. Tonight, it'll be myself, Connor Nelson, and Mick Gillespie on the call. You can stay tuned right here on 92.5 or 1180 WKCE. For those watching on YouTube, go ahead and tune into the radio. Catch the game live. So with that, for Jimbo, James Cole Schmelzer, yes, you can call him by any one of those names if you see him in person, and myself, Connor Nelson, signing out for the Smokies Baseball Network. We got Game 1 coming up right here. Stay tuned. Lookouts versus Smokies right
fans. For the first time in over 25 years, it's time to introduce your Knoxville Smokies.
Go Smokies! Woo! Woo!